Skeptical, Parenting Through Nonbelief.
We're a married atheist couple raising two wonderful, strange children. We ask big questions, dissect weird parenting moments, and examine how society ignores or misrepresents families like ours. If you're any stripe of non-believer who's involved in raising children, welcome. You are our people.
Our kids have heard all our swears, but yours might not have. So be thoughtful if there are young people listening with you.
Hi, moms.
Hi. Oh, man. How are you doing?
I am doing fine. How are you doing?
I don't know. I feel like I was exercising last night and I was like, when do we do the episode about me needing mental health support again?
Don't we talk about it every time now?
No.
Well, we're talking about it right now, so that's like the last 3 episodes.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like at the end of the summer, I'll be able to be like, here are all the things that happened to my brain over the summer.
And you're going to be saying these things to a qualified mental health professional?
My plan was to say them to the podcast.
Oh, dear God. The answer should just be a simple yes at this point.
And then explain that I will be getting help from a qualified professional. Yeah. But, baby steps.
Okay.
I've gotten help before.
I know. I know. And that time is not now.
I know.
And it should be.
As we've discussed, it takes a lot of effort to find the right person and do all the things. So
yeah, I know. I feel very fortunate that I found my therapist.
Yeah, and that it worked out on the first try. That was amazing.
Yeah, pretty much.
But speaking of mental health, we've had an interesting thing with Reader.
Yes.
Do you want to explain what happened?
Oh, sure. So Reader not decided, that's totally unfair.
Yeah.
Reader revealed that he, this is weeks ago, that he had arachnophobia and that it was very bad, crippling even. To the point where I was buying go away spider mint herbal pouches that he just put all over his room and bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
But then what he did is he brought it up with his therapist, and his therapist started working on this with him. And now he's immersing himself. He thinks some spiders at least are cute. He doesn't run away. He just says, oh, look, there's a such and such spider. He's learning about them. He's basically immersing himself in the world of arachnids to demystify them and to find the things in them that he thinks interesting or just aesthetically pleasing. And to the point where now it's not an issue anymore. And so what he did is he identified a problem. He sought help. He started to gather empirical data and to run it through whatever heuristic he was using to determine what's valuable and what's not. And he changed a belief. He saw the need to change the belief, more importantly, because it was negatively impacting his life. And it was just really marvelous. He did the thing that we talk about. We want our kids being able to do. I'm very proud of him.
So now I have an issue.
Okay.
So I am so glad he went through that process.
Uh-huh.
And that he found tools that worked for him.
Uh-huh.
I sort of feel like the arachnophobia was never the thing.
Okay.
And it was kind of a thing standing in for the thing.
Interesting. What do you think it was standing in for?
Well, probably other anxieties.
Okay.
And so there have been times where we've been talking about things where he's seemed stressed or worried, like changing schools next year, going from grade school to middle school.
Yeah.
And so would it be like, how much should I suggest that those are things he also brings up? And how much should I just lay off and let him do whatever he wants with his own therapy, given that Reader is 11?
I think that you should lay off, because if it's something that he was worried about but resolved on his own without talking about it, then I don't think it's worth interjecting. You know, like, I totally get where you're coming from, but I also want to give him credit for having self-realization and that, you know, resolving those issues that were once issues, perhaps now no longer.
Okay. So I shouldn't say anything.
No, I don't think you should say anything. I think you should let him do it. And I think that if he has those anxieties, or like if he continues to voice those anxieties, then I think we should make it a topic of conversation, perhaps. But I haven't heard him say a single thing about anxiety about going to middle school, like, in weeks.
Okay.
Have you?
No, I just, I mean,
like, I'll worry about it when he indicates that we should worry about it. And and just because he was worried about it in the past doesn't mean that he is worried about it now. Maybe the best thing to do is for us just to ask him and be like, hey, dude, are you still worried about XYZ?
Yeah.
Maybe that would be a better start than us just having this pie in the sky conjecture.
No, that's probably a good idea. I think I just, with Go, I mean, I feel like Go's brain is a pretty open spigot. And for the most part, everything going on in there
even
gets expressed within short order. I mean, he was worrying about something, and I think he sat on that for like one night before telling me.
Yes.
But with Reader, I just don't know. Like, I don't know how much he talks about. So if he brings up something, since he very rarely talks about anything, if he brings up something once, I don't know if that's like the tip of the iceberg, where it's just like the tiny tip we're seeing of everything else going on underneath.
Sure.
Or if his real concerns we like never hear about, or I don't know. But I also feel like I feel like you might have a different relationship with him as far as what you feel like you hear and understand than I do.
No, I just think what I'm going to do is lovingly, politely have you consider that your anxiety about his well-being could be what's making you read into what the situation should be based on what he said in the past. And we should just ask him.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it's real easy as parents just to have your desire for your children to be happy and well, to move your mind towards catastrophe about how they're not, in fact, happy or well.
Yeah.
So I think we just defer to him and we ask him, because it isn't like he buried those issues deep in the past. He's very openly talked about that sort of stuff, So I wouldn't consider this situation to be any different, that he'll just end up telling us what's bothering him with very little prompting or, coaxing. And then we'll get to the bottom of it, or he'll very plainly and honestly tell us that it's not an issue anymore.
Okay. Thank you.
No, it's a great thing to bring up, and it's so universal to parenting. We all want the best for our kids. We all worry that the best is never going to be good enough. Or at least at least that's how it should be, in my opinion.
Yeah. Hey, so it is Moms from the future. Speaking of my brain, I very much know that talking about the concept of bad things does not make those bad things happen. But my anxiety is not believing that right now. So I sort of threw in a tangential fourth topic after this one, which I then had to cut. Maybe I'll put it in like the December stuff that didn't fit into other things episode. But because of that, the transition to the next segment doesn't necessarily make any sense. So that's why. And I also thought I would take a moment, because I keep forgetting to say we've had a lot of listeners. And if you are new and working through the episodes, and if there's anything you would like us to cover or know that you are thinking about, please reach out. We are still small enough that we can really respond to that stuff. And also, we've made it on a couple of lists of top atheist podcasts, and we'd like that to continue. So if you have a second to rate or review us, please do. 5 stars. We already got 1-star review. I don't know if that was because of my like terrible audio or something else, but yeah, it would be great to have a couple more ratings out there. So that is it. And now on to the next topic. Okay. So speaking of my bad habit of listening to Christian podcasts, we were
not
recently,
all Christian podcasts, just kind of the bad ones.
Just, yeah. So speaking of kind of the bad ones, I've mentioned Alisa Childer's because I find some of her guests fascinating because they will be like very reasoned and kind of make thoughtful comments until about halfway through the interview. And then something will always go terribly off the rails. And so she had on, yes. So she had on Christopher Ewan. She had him on twice.
Oh, I know this guy.
The one I don't. So interesting. So the one, I will link to it, but it was called Calling Out False Teachers. What does the Bible say? And he just made an argument so bad, I had to bring it up.
Oh, and so also hot take, closeted gay.
Oh,
I've seen him interview a lot. And
isn't he somebody who feels like he said something where I feel like maybe he was somebody who feels he was cured of gayness by Christianity?
Yeah, I know. And like, I'm so sorry to have to say that, but I have heard him say some truly horrendous things about queer folk and the Bible. And yeah, so I wouldn't care if he didn't also do the other thing.
Right. And
honestly.
So speaking of identities, they were speaking about lots of stuff. And then he brought up the argument with trans children, where some people say, would you rather have a dead daughter or a live son? Right?
Yeah.
And I didn't write down the exact quote, but the gist of his argument was, that's the language that kidnappers use. So if someone says that to you, tell them that they're trying to kidnap your child and you'll call the police.
Wait, can you repeat that, please?
Okay. So the quote he's referring to is people who ask, would you rather have a dead daughter or a live son? Basically saying like, if you don't support your trans kid, we have seen that suicide rates increase greatly.
Yeah.
You know, so would you rather have a trans kid who's alive and happy or, you know, a kid who's dead?
Yeah.
And he said, that's the language that kidnappers use. So if someone says that to you, tell them they're trying to kidnap your child and you'll call the police.
Okay, but if your kid is kidnapping themselves.
Right. It is. I was like,
he's an absurd person and he needs to check his fucking self. Like,
in what way? So like, I think the only way that it is the same as language that kidnappers use is that it's saying, if you don't do something, something else will happen. But that applies to a lot of sentences.
I mean,
right?
like
if you don't put your sandwich in the fridge, it'll go bad. Well, that's the language that kidnappers use.
Well, that's the same language that he uses about, like, everything I've heard him talk about in the apologetic space. Like, it's all scolding. Like, it's all, you're not doing Christianity right. Like, I saw a video of his that was basically, is gay Christian, in quotes, an oxymoron. Like, anytime this guy talks about other people's identities, they can easily level that same criticism at him. Like, it's just, I don't know why these people open their mouths. It's always a train wreck.
But yeah, but I thought
I'm sorry you had to experience him. I find him very odious.
It's so interesting because I'm like, well, kidnappers rarely are trying to help. Like, they're threatening violence.
Yeah.
They're not telling you things to do to keep your child alive. They're asking for money.
Right, but this guy, you got to remember, in his mind, the child is dying because the child is ceasing to be the person that God ordained the child to be. You know, like, you got to think weird fundy and stupid apologetics in order to really grok what's happening here. He is a very, very dishonest interlocutor from everything I've seen of him in discussions with other people, both people he agrees with and disagrees with. It's just kind of sad that he has a platform because he says some really gruesome things. Oh, and honestly, gruesome things that could very well be a product or byproduct of self-loathing about his own identity. Like, he can't be happy, so he takes it out on other people. Sort of, you know, closeted gay Christian thing that we've seen time and time again. Like, he wouldn't be the first. He's not going to be the last.
Yeah.
So I'm, like I said at the top, I'm not convinced that he's not just gay and self-hating and now feels like he has to, like, virtue signal to feel part of this in-group that he really wants to be a part of.
Yeah. I mean, I think the reason I wanted to bring it up is that, because I think what he was really responding to is that the statement feels like a threat.
Yeah.
And, like, it's not, because the person saying it is not involved in any part of the process, right?
Right.
Like, they're not saying, if you don't let your kid transition, I'm going to make sure they kill themselves.
Right.
Like, the person involved isn't doing anything. They're just saying, like, look, this is something that happens. If you don't do this thing, you're going to risk this other thing.
Right.
But it just made me think about how we talk. And, like, if
you and I talk, or like we as a culture?
Like, we as a culture talk.
Okay.
Because I think it was interesting to me on that level, because I was like, hearing him make that statement, and, like, if you didn't think about it hard, I feel like his response would totally play into the emotions of what you might be feeling.
Sure.
Like, if your kid is trans and you have never met a trans person before.
Yeah.
And it all feels very strange.
Yeah. And it's very confusing. Scary.
Yeah. And somebody says, like, something like that to you, it could feel very threatening. So, because you don't feel ready to be accepting, because it feels strange and goes against what you've been told. And then you listen to somebody like Christopher Ewan, and he's like, that's the language that kidnappers use. I can imagine, like, if you don't break it down and think about what the statement is actually saying, it's like that statement feels threatening. And kidnappers make threats. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, it just, on that level, I could see somebody being very convinced by it.
Sure.
And so it just made me, I mean, I think it's fine to use whatever language you want to use. But it did make me think about how I would want to talk about things if I was trying to reach out to somebody who was feeling threatened by all this, where this all did feel very strange to them, you know?
Yeah. And also, like, we talk about empathy. Like, I fully empathize with parents who struggle when their kids come out as trans. Like, it could be that, you tried so hard to, have a child in the first place, and, you end up with a kid who no longer wants the identity that you worked so hard for. Like it's a very selfish thing, but also, parenting is a very personal experience. And it could be that the kid is a junior or a third, and now all of a sudden this like proud family name that you were hoping would be passed on wouldn't be passed on. Like there are so many different emotions that can stem from a kid speaking their truth to a parent, that I think it's like with all discourse, the best thing you can do is to try your best, your absolute best, to see it from the other person's perspective, to really understand their objections, their beliefs, their wants, and their dreads. Just practicing empathy, because otherwise you're probably, I'm going to say, more likely to calcify the negative side of their reactions. You're going to give justification to their defense mechanisms instead of helping to coax them into this new reality, and that it's really not that bad, and that in fact this is the loving thing to do, and that you're being told that this is bad, but you can't actually put a pin on why it's bad. It's just like all this emotional language. And then I think they might be more open to, at least on their own, researching all the medical data and psychological data, like you just alluded to a moment ago, regarding positive health outcomes in trans folks. And that the positive health outcomes start with community support. Whatever their community is, if they feel like they have one and it supports them, then they're going to get help. Now, that community, if they're a minor, wouldn't necessarily need to involve a guardian, so that way they can get the medical care they need. But it, like, in a broad sense, that's where it would need to start. And so it isn't good enough just to be a scold and say, oh, what? So you don't love your kid? Because, I mean, like, that's a great way to shut a conversation down. And this is probably one of the most delicate, nuanced, and impactful conversations that this person will ever have in their entire life. Because this is their kid.
Yeah.
So it behooves us as allies, if we're ever finding ourselves in a situation, I think it behooves us. Can't speak for everybody, but at least for me, like, to be as diplomatic and as empathetic as I can, because, just because I feel this way now about trans issues, I didn't necessarily feel this way all the time. I laughed at that bloke's a Sheila, or that Sheila's a bloke from Crocodile Dundee when I was a kid. I didn't think anything of it. I was like, whatever. Yeah, it's weird. Dude just dressing up as a woman. And it's, the identity of the person is dismissed. That person is a person, and that person was rendered a punchline.
Yeah.
And I think differently now. And I needed time, and I needed space to mature. And just because somebody has this gut reaction doesn't mean that they can't get to a similar place given support and time. Right? Like, we can't view the way we are now as a justification for holding somebody accountable to how we are now. We all had paths, and some of us got there sooner. Some of us started off there. But the most important thing is that we get there, and that requires empathy. But it's a hard conversation to have, I can imagine, with a parent to a child who comes out and the parent just is not ready for it. Yeah.
I have another thing to get your reaction to.
Oh, that wasn't enough?
No. Okay.
Right, great.
So, Slate parenting.
I feel spent. Yeah?
Or no, it's Dear Prudence. It's Slate's like Dear Abby column.
Oh, okay, cool.
Dear Prudence. And I just thought this was so interesting, and I wonder if you will have the same reaction I have.
Okay.
So, I'm going to read... I guess I'll read the whole question and a little bit of the answer. Okay. Dear Prudence, I have a 14-year-old son. We are white. His father is a staunch agnostic. I, on the other hand, was a practicing Roman Catholic for a decade and a member of the Baha'i faith for another decade. I have been extremely disenchanted with organized religion over the last few years, though I maintain a deep spiritual life. My son identifies with his father in almost every way, so I assumed he would turn out atheist. So I was quite surprised when he came out to me recently as a believer in Christ. Initially, I was concerned about his exposure to Christian nationalists and cult-like thinking. But the religion he has been most interested in studying, primarily because his best friend is Black, is the Bethel AME Church. His friend's choir had a performance 2 weeks ago and invited my son. My son was moved by the experience and asked if he could attend services the following week. I want to support and foster his spiritual growth, but I told him I had concerns that coming to services when not invited by a member could be seen as culturally insensitive or appropriating. I also can't stop picturing Steve Martin's character in the movie The Jerk. Can you help? And so, dear mother of a modern day, is it Navin Johnson, the character in The Jerk? Navin? Whatever.
I forget. It's been decades since I've seen The Jerk.
That movie never spoke to me. So they talk about the movie because the person answering the question had to look it up. And then they go on to say, so this is Prudence. I had a gut feeling that he would be received with open arms at his friend's church. However, I didn't want to lead him astray based on a misguided instinct, based on nothing but the idea that Black spaces tend to be warm and welcoming to people from other backgrounds. So I quickly texted my friend Danielle, whose dad and husband are both pastors. Her response, I think it's totally fine to attend, even uninvited. But technically, he was already invited by his friend to the choir performance. An invite to a Black church lasts in perpetuity anytime the doors of the church are open. That sounds pretty official to me, but your kid seems so sweet and sincere, I just had to double check. So he calls other people who say, like, somebody will probably come up and talk to him. It probably won't be a problem. There was a shooting at a Black church by a young white man. So, somebody was like, somebody might just check in to make sure like everything's chill. But if he's like, oh yeah, my friend invited me to a choir practice and I loved it, that things will probably be fine. And then it ends, so basically your son can let the people he encounters take the lead and be assured that they have experiencing welcoming and yes, vetting guests. With this in mind, I do think he should go in with the response in mind to, hello, young man, what brings you here? It can be a short explanation. He could even add, my mom wasn't sure if it was okay for me to be here without an invitation. So she said I should ask, because I have a feeling you won't feel totally comfortable until you hear a yes. So I don't necessarily have a problem with the response, but I feel like something is missing. And I wonder if it hit you too.
What do you think is missing?
Well,
Are you talking about the parents not pushing back on why the kid is choosing?
Yes, but I don't.
Because I honestly don't like. It's fine. You go.
Okay, I'm not even going to say pushing back. So you think it's fine? You're like, have him go ask.
No, I haven't said anything yet. I asked you about your position.
Okay, so I think there are two things that are weird. His dad is agnostic, and it feels to me like his mom hasn't really brought his dad into this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And my sense is, based on what the mom said about having a deep spiritual life, and that this kid is like very attached to his dad in every other way, I sort of think she's like really happy that the religion thing happened.
Okay.
I think she's really happy that the religion thing happened. And look, if anything was to bring me to Christ, it would be gospel music. So I totally...
That's only because you love the Blues Brothers.
I love all gospel.
We're on a mission from Gad.
Gospel is amazing.
Hey, if I went into a church and James Brown was there, I might convert.
Right? So, and I think about Eve Was Framed.
Sure.
Who is a woman, she was...
Not Eve Was Framed anymore, it's Promise.
Right,
Backlund.
Promise.
She uses her
Sorry,
name.
but on Instagram, it's Eve Was Framed. She started going by her real name, Promise, and she was very Christian, was a worship leader, did Christian music, and then left the church. And she's been talking about like, you know, how Christian music like works to, and I don't think this is so true of gospel, but like the kind of worship music she was doing, how it's like built to create a religious feeling.
Yes.
And I've heard other people talk about like, oh, I felt so connected to God in those moments. And then I went to like a totally secular band and felt just as moved and was like, oh, I just really like live music. Who knew?
Yeah.
Like chord
I got
changes
that when I went to the Powerwolf concert.
Yeah, chord changes are powerful. Like we were on a long drive and I was playing the kids the musical Once on This Island. And like, I cannot play that musical without getting teary. Like it just,
Aww.
I can't. I like start crying right away before it even gets sad because I like know where it's going.
Oh no.
So,
yeah.
So I don't think like, I don't know if it's pushback, but I'm just like, I wouldn't want to be like, whoa, you can't be a Christian. That's not what we do. But I just think I would want to like have a conversation about what her kid is thinking. Because it's fine to go and explore church. Like, I don't think there's any problem. And I think there's some great advice about what to expect. But if it was mainly from being moved by the music, I just feel like that's a conversation I would want to start. Because, like, does the kid even know, like, a lot of parts of the religion? Like, I don't know. I just thought it was, like, kind of wild that was totally cut out and wasn't addressed at all. How do you feel?
I don't know. The first thing I think about in hearing all of that is that as a parent, I would just be really curious as to what specifically it was that made my kid want to join a religion. Because whether they're going from no religion to religion or from one religion to another, there's a stimulus, right? What was the catalyst for my child in becoming this new thing potentially? So I would want to know that. I would want both parents involved. Sure. It's a big deal. Because also now you're potentially foisting, scheduling obligations on the other parent.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, this is something that needs to be decided on as a family, just like an after school activity. Because unless you have like a nanny, you can't do like a unilateral decision about that sort of thing. Because as we know as parents, sometimes it's all hands on deck. But yeah, I think you were right in part that I'm less concerned about my child having a new identity when it comes to that sort of thing. I would just have a conversation with them, not to be like a buzzkill, but to be like, okay, as a secularist, we never had to worry about this, that, or the other thing with you. But now, given how some churches operate, we just need to be mindful of what it is that you're being exposed to dogmatically. Because some churches inject politics and cultural analysis
Mm-hmm.
that might run afoul of everything that you have maybe been brought to respect, but also have up until now exhibited an affinity for and has seen as potentially necessary. So I would just encourage the kid to understand that we as parents would be interested in discussing the goings on at the church when we're not there with them, as often as our comfort requires.
Yeah. And also interesting that it didn't necessarily sound like she would be going with him.
Yeah, a lot of this is weird. I think he
Yeah.
nailed it. Like, she's so happy that he found a religion that she's like, great, fine, sign me up. It's like us when we found our art tutor.
Yeah. Like, is it okay for me to just drop him off? Because I sort of feel like he has been, like, even if I was really happy that he had sort of a religious interest, I think I would want to say, like, hey, look, you've been really impressed by like one aspect of this church that you saw,
Mm-hmm.
which is the music.
Right.
So like, yeah, exactly. Like, what do you like about it? What is moving you? Like, know that if you go and that if there are aspects of this that don't seem right to you, that there is like a very broad spectrum.
Yeah.
And we can love that music and like maybe maybe this is the right church. Maybe a different church is the answer. There are also like other versions of faith.
Like, do you feel like you really do believe that Jesus is real, sin is real, and, worshiping Jesus is necessary? If that's the case, yeah, a lot of options.
Yeah.
That aren't necessarily gospel, but if the gospel goes hand in hand with this church, with all sorts of other like anti-humanist stuff. Like, we don't know anything about the kid aside from this one thing too. Like,
yeah,
is their kid like bisexual? Is their kid non-binary? Like, are they going to feel othered by the church?
Yeah.
Because I love me some gospel music, but also like,
and I don't know Bethel AME. I don't know enough about that particular.
There's like, a lot of there's a lot of anti-queer sentiment in.
And look, there are
community.
Great Black churches that are very accepting, right?
Sure.
I don't know enough about Bethel AME to know.
I'm just saying about
category
church in general. Obviously, like we talk about it every week, but it's not necessarily something that that every parent or every family focuses on. Yeah. And so like he found Jesus. Doesn't matter. Also, big green check mark.
Like gospel. Like, is it just like you like the idea of a loving God? Because if that's the case, like every religion is open to you. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You can like love gospel, and if you just like the idea of God, everything's on the table. So, yeah, I was kind of.
Yeah, it has long been clear that the church condemns same-sex relationships. It doesn't appear to address transgender issues specifically, but does closely follow scriptural teachings about gender being biologically determined.
Whatever that means.
Unanimous vote in 2004 that forbade ministers from performing marriages or civil unions for same-sex couples. So yeah, like, this is one aspect of this kid's life and this one tiny little snapshot into this family's dynamic. So who knows if this is actually like a good idea for the kid or the family?
Yeah.
Like, does he have a favorite gay uncle that he's now going to have mixed feelings about? 'Cause Jesus? I don't know. Like, it requires more conversation than just Jesus. Yes, please.
Yeah.
Because kids are impressionable. And like you said, the worship music it's like, spiking the nicotine in a cigarette.
Oh, yeah. Oh. Man, it's good.
And also, I'm sorry, like, modern worship music does not hold a candle to the shit that I listened to as a kid in Lutheran church, which is all like 19th century and early 20th century hymns, which is just like classy and big and organy and bombastic. There were no guitars. There were no cymbals. There was no call and response. You just all sing together, and that's the way God intended.
And you know, Alisa Childers agrees with you a little bit.
Oh, she does?
Different topic. Anyway, I have to go. So let's call it there. We need to thank Jonathan Zalbin and First Frame Music for the music for this podcast.
And here ends this episode of The Family Skeptical, where nothing is sacred except for our kids.
Yay! Okay, stop this. Stop.